Hello, my name is Ashim Kumar and I am an FCCA, Fellow of the Chartered Certified Accountants. I'm an MBA and I'm a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. I teach on the SPL paper for the ACCA for Ftms in Vietnam. I've had the pleasure of running two international businesses, one in Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and also Middle East and North Africa. I also, as well as teaching, I also run my own entrepreneurial business as a training consultant.
Introduce the ACCA qualification, its member size, and who should follow it.
So ACCA is a global qualification. It stands for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. It is a body which is represented and recognized in 185 countries around the world. There are 500,000 members and students of the ACCA around the world. So it is a qualification that is designed for people whose ambition is to go into senior business roles, senior leadership roles, in all kinds of industry and in all kinds of locations. So you'll find ACCAs in manufacturing, in the service industry, in consulting, and many of them run their own businesses as well. The SBL examination, the one that I teach, is at the final stage of the qualification. There are 13 papers in total, and it's one of the papers that must be passed in order to qualify as an ACCA.
What is the definition of SBL and what does it stand for?
So SBL stands for Strategic Business Leader. As I say, it's one of the papers at the final stage of the ACCA qualification. And what happened was, before the SBL curriculum was crafted, the ACCA went to business leaders around the world and they asked them, what is it that you want ACCA graduates to be able to do? And based on their feedback, the ACCA produced the SBL examination. Now, what is it? It is a case study based exam which puts students in a real world situation, right? So the student is in a kind of position that they might find themselves in when working in an industry as a consultant or as a senior manager, and they have to deal with all sorts of challenges, and they have to know how to balance the different aspects of business decision making. So how do we manage our customers, our employees? How do we use technology to gain competitive advantage? And they need to bring all of these things together in SBL and produce a solution to the challenge the business is facing. Now, despite the fact that this is an accounting qualification, there are actually very few numbers in SBL. In the same way as you wouldn't expect a senior leader in an organization to produce a balance sheet, but you would expect a senior leader in an organization to understand what the numbers mean in a strategic context. And that's what SBL is all about, and it's vital for any leader to have a strong foundational understanding of this area.
What are the values of the SBL course that our student could get?
Right, so as I say, SBL is actually quite unique even within the ACCA qualification. And one of the things that SBL requires is the student's ability to think outside the box. There are no answers for SBL questions in any textbook, right? In the same way as there are no answers to challenges in the real world when you're running a business. Okay, you have to use your expertise, your knowledge, and your commercial judgment when facing challenges in the real world, and you have to do exactly the same thing when you attempt SBL. So when a student attends an SBL course, my approach always is to encourage them, to give them confidence, to say things that are new, to bring up ideas, all right, and not be afraid of sharing them. Because what happens is that you then, as a student attending a course, you become used to being able to think flexibly, to bring in different perspectives and produce a solution that makes strategic sense, right? This is, remember, it's called Strategic Business Leader for a reason. It is designed to help you, to encourage you to make decisions which are going to take your organization to its objectives in the long term. So that's why attending a course is so valuable. Many students feel that they can simply read the SBL textbook and learn it, but actually it doesn't work that way for the reason I've mentioned. So the interaction of attending a course is a critical element of passing the SBL exam.
Is this the first time that you have visited Vietnam?
I'm delighted to say I've been to Vietnam many times. In fact, I started coming here in 2018, and in that time I have met many wonderful people and made lots of friends and seen many beautiful things. I've also, I must say, actually, on this visit in particular, I've noticed a major difference in the energy, the commercial and economic activity that is going on in Vietnam. I look around me and I see global brands appearing on office blocks everywhere. And that's a really exciting thing to see, because when I ran my own businesses in Central and Eastern Europe and Middle East and North Africa, the majority of our clients were these large international brands. And the reason that they want their employees to study for the ACCA is because the ACCA qualification gives them the foundation, the understanding of the commercial reality, and actually prepares them for senior management positions. So international companies are always looking for high quality, high standard people who are going to come up through the ranks and take over directorship positions, as they should. And the ACCA is a wonderful way for them to assess the standards and knowledge that those individuals have gained. So ACCA qualification, a really powerful tool used by global organizations for employees whom they want to groom for very senior leadership positions. And I see that market growing and growing in Vietnam for that reason.
What's your favorite Vietnamese food?
I have so many favorite Vietnamese foods. Let me start off by saying, first of all, that I love the vegetables and the fruits and the seafood in Vietnam. So when I come here, most of the time, that's what I eat. I was fortunate enough to be taken out a couple of evenings ago by some very dear friends of mine at Ftms, who introduced me to a whole range of new tastes and experiences, which are things that I won't forget very easily. So I must ask for their names, so that next time I go to a Vietnamese restaurant, I'll ask for those dishes again. But I love the combination of the flavors that many Vietnamese dishes have. Yes, there's the sweet and the spicy, and the aromas of the vegetables excite all of my senses. So many Vietnamese foods is the answer to your question.
Is there some specific place that you want to visit?
In the past, and even on this trip, most of the time I spend in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. But the last time I came here in 2018, I was fortunate enough I beg your pardon, 2020. I was fortunate enough to see a little bit more of Vietnam. I came with my wife and we went to Ha Long Bay, Mai Son, I think is how you pronounce it, Hoi An, and a resort near Hoi An. And I saw a little part of this beautiful country, and I certainly plan on seeing much more on my subsequent trips. Certainly make sure I make time for that.
Can you name some FTMS students who impressed you the most?
I love working with Vietnamese students because of how committed they are to the examination and to passing this examination and the qualification as a whole. And there are many students who have impressed me in that way. There's one student who kind of stands out. His name's Dat Nguyen, and he was someone I taught in 2020 here at FTMS. He earned a magnificent 89% in the SBL examination. Now, to put that in context, the majority of students who pass, the pass mark is 50%, So the majority of people who pass, students who pass, earn between 50 and 60. It's very rare for students to get above 60%. But Dat's performance was exceptional. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who marks papers for the ACCA, and you know, this guy has marked thousands of SBL papers, and he had never come across a script which had earned 89%. So really exceptional performance. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that because SBL is a written subject, it's much more difficult to persuade the marker to award marks because there is so much subjectivity involved. With a numerical subject, you know pretty much, you know, if the approach is correct or the answer is correct. With a written subject, you know, it's much more difficult to know that. So another really impressive achievement by Dat Nguyen.
Do you have any advice for students who want to obtain the ACCA certificate?
Absolutely. The thing to do with the ACCA, if you decide to go for it, is to go for it with your eyes open. Okay, what does that mean? It means that you need to understand that there is an enormous prize to be that is waiting for you at the end of your ACCA journey. When you qualify, when you hold that certificate in your hand, which says you are now admitted to membership of the ACCA, that is an enormous prize. And I'll explain why in just a second. But when I say you need to go into it with your eyes open, it means that you need to be prepared to make some commitment of energy, of time and compromises. So many ACCA students have families and other commitments, they have friends, you know, and we all enjoy meeting our friends from time to time. And sometimes those parts of our lives as students will need to be compromised so that we can focus on passing the examinations. The process will take 3 to 4 years typically, and so it requires a long-term approach. But as I say, if you're prepared to do that, and if you can organize yourself enough to do that, then it is well worth having. The ACCA is a global qualification, and so yes, I think it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Do you think learning online or coaching online have many disadvantages in comparison with offline training face-to-face? Which one do you prefer?
I'm a people person, okay? So my preference is to meet people face-to-face. However, having said that, you know, the reality we live in means that sometimes, you know, we have alternatives that are available which are equally effective, and I would put online learning in that category. It's extremely effective. It doesn't have the personal interaction, but what it does have is the kind of flexibility that it offers. So what do I mean by that? Well, there are two kinds of flexibility. The first is that, you know, I can be sitting at home in Poland, which is where I live, and I can be talking to students on the other side of the world. All right, so I have that flexibility. And the second flexibility is for the student as well, because they don't need to dedicate half a day or a whole day to go to the training center, but they can sit wherever they are, in the office, at home, all right, and attend the class, attend the session in a way that is convenient to them. So they're both effective, they both have advantages, all right, but I really like the personal interaction of face-to-face.
How do your pass rates compare with the international ACCA pass rates for SBL?
Right, so the pass rates for SBL, which started in 2018, the pass rates are around 50%, something like that. Compared to other ACCA subjects, it's pretty average. The other subjects have pass rates 35, 45, so something in that range. My goal always with my students is to get a pass rate of at least 75% of the group. I am happy to say that my students always beat that 75% target, and I've been fortunate enough to have groups where pass rates have been 90% and even 100%. So one thing I can guarantee, and that is that if you are prepared to put in the dedication and commitment to learning SBL, then I make the same promise, and I can also guarantee, based on my record, that it works. My students pass, but it's a two-way street. We help each other, we support each other all the way to our success.
When teaching directly to the Vietnamese students at the conference room, which part did you like the most?
There are so many parts that I love about teaching students generally. I suppose the one that comes to mind first is the light that goes on in the students' eyes when everything makes sense. Yeah. So the day starts out with students looking at me as though I'm some kind of crazy guy talking about something that makes absolutely no sense at all. But then slowly, if they keep listening, then the pieces of the jigsaw come together, and they see the whole picture, and suddenly their eyes light up, and that's a time of extreme fulfillment for me. In terms of Vietnamese students in particular, Vietnamese students tend to be quite reserved, tend to be quite shy, and with SBL, it's really important that we share ideas, that we challenge each other, and together we learn. As a group, by doing that, we learn. Our group knowledge increases. And so I try to encourage that from the beginning of a class with Vietnamese students in particular. So slowly, the students start to feel more comfortable, more confident with each other. And what I really find extremely exciting and satisfying is where at the end of the day, or at the end of the program, they're talking away, with each other and with me. And sometimes I actually have problems trying to keep them quiet. So it goes to the other extreme, but that's great to see.